Welcome, I'm so glad you all could join me. I'm Chava and you're watching Ask a Midwife.
Hi everyone, this is Chava Ben Sion, and you're watching Ask a Midwife. Today I'm going to go over some of the ways that a woman can encourage her labor to begin without using a pharmaceutical or mechanical method like we talked about in the last video. So what I'm going to just give you a little bit of background on myself. I'm a midwife. My background is home birth, but I am also a doula, and I've helped many hundreds of women have beautiful hospital births as well. I provide prenatal care to all my clients, and I have a lot of experience with natural methods of stimulating labor when appropriate. And we talked a little bit about in the first video, when is it appropriate to do a medical induction? Why would it be not appropriate to do an unnecessary induction or an elective induction just because the woman is tired of being pregnant? Now there are some things that women can do that will encourage her body to get ready, but it's not necessarily forcing her body to have the baby. The only thing that can truly force the body to have the baby are those mechanical or pharmaceutical methods like Pitocin, Cervidil, the Foley catheter, breaking the water. That's a combination of mechanical and pharmaceutical methods, and that's really what we have in our medical repertoire to get a baby out, besides doing a cesarean section, a surgery. But in terms of encouraging the body, we want to work with the body. Okay, so midwives are specialists in normal, and we like to keep things normal. So that means if the woman is well nourished, okay, if she's been eating well, if she's eating well in the last few days and hours of her pregnancy, leading up to labor and even in labor, if she's hydrating herself, she's drinking well, she's drinking enough, she's urinating, then there should be enough amniotic fluid. If she's resting enough, the body is not a machine. The uterus is not a machine. It doesn't just go and go and go. It goes in response to the calories and that we put into our body, the rest that we have. If we're exhausted, our uterus isn't going to function like it doesn't have what it needs. So it needs to rest. We need to rest. We need to nourish ourselves. We need to be hydrated. We need to help get our baby in the right position. If the baby is I talked about in the most recent video, if the baby's not in a good position, it's really hard for the baby to line up and press on the right places inside the pelvis, and press on the lower uterine segment, to press on the pelvic floor, and to press on all the places that the baby needs to put pressure in order to trigger labor. That's one of the things that the body understands is, the baby's in the right position. If the baby's not in the right position, then those triggers don't happen. A lot of times we get really stressed out in the end of our pregnancy. Those stress hormones they block oxytocin. They block oxytocin in labor. Like if a woman is in labor and then she gets really stressed out, or she has a fright and she becomes afraid or insecure, those stress hormones can actually block her body's oxytocin. So, and the same goes for the end of pregnancy. If she's stressed out, if she's afraid, if she's sad, if she's depressed, lonely, all the negative emotions can really affect her labor. So in order for that love hormone, that oxytocin that we talked about in the last video, to really flow, she needs to be in a space of, ideally, obviously, in the reality, it's not always like this, but ideally, as much as you can influence your joy, your security, your love, your gratitude, your appreciation, all those different good, helpful emotions, that's really ideal. So good emotional state, completing like things that you need to complete in the pregnancy, feeling a sense of, readiness, like everything is ready for the baby. You've prepared, you've had the talks you needed to have with your husband, with your mom, with your kids. You've done your emotional work. Okay. Also, things that get the hormones flowing would be exercise. Walking can help shift. Walking is amazing. It can help shift the baby's position. It can help align the baby. It can help move the baby down. It changes a little bit the dynamic of the pelvis as you walk. So if there needs to be a change in the baby's position, it really helps. It increases our endorphins, which we really need for labor. It increases our ability to produce the oxytocin. Walking is amazing. Other kinds of exercise, if they're safe. Also, swimming is an amazing exercise to do. One thing I say about all these natural methods of labor stimulation, or I like to say encouraging the process, is that if the woman is really ready, if she's kind of on the fence, if she's kind of on the verge, they might push her into labor. But these things can't really make a woman have her baby if she's not already ready to have her baby. And that's why women sometimes say to me, well, I really want to encourage things, but I don't want to make the baby come before the baby's ready. I really want the baby to take her time, but I really want to give the baby a chance to kind of hurry up if she's okay with that. Like, they want to encourage things, but they don't want to do anything that's very like, that really is creating a situation where the baby would, be born before she was truly ready. So I like to reassure women that all these things will set you up for health. They'll set you up for, the baby's alignment. They'll set everything up, but they're not going to force the baby to be born if she's not ready. And the next thing I want to talk about is arousal. It doesn't have to be, a lot of times people say, oh, if you are intimate with your partner, then that will help labor come along. Look, any kind of arousal will the body will release oxytocin. So it could be orgasm, it could be a nice dinner with your partner, it could be a lot of different things. It could be cuddling, it could be a lot of different things, whatever is arousing for you. So it doesn't have to be intercourse. Now, intercourse is also a plus because the semen they contain prostaglandins, and so semen next to the cervix can also help ripen the cervix for labor, and also stimulates blood flow in that area, in the tissues. And there are a lot of physiological pluses to that, to intercourse as well, but even just arousal. A lot of times women say, I don't think I could do that in the end of pregnancy, So I'm just talking about arousal, and also intercourse can help as well. So in addition to exercise, intimacy, resting, nourishment, hydration, and then of course the emotional techniques, which would be, kind of maybe journaling or prayer, or all those sort of wrapping up the process of pregnancy in a sort of an emotional way. We also have acupuncture. Chinese medicine can be amazing for what I said, like pushing the woman over the edge a little bit in terms of her kicking her into labor. So acupuncture with a really solid, experienced, professional Chinese doctor, a traditional doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. A massage can really help a woman relax, and also with specific practices like reflexology, shiatsu, acupressure, and even just Swedish massage can trigger some points that are very helpful to encourage contractions. I do a massage technique on my overdue moms, and do some like acupressure points that are, I would say more often than not, really help encourage the labor. Chiropractic can sometimes line up a baby who is not quite aligned properly. Some people talk about herbs and homeopathy. I particularly don't employ a lot of herbs and homeopathy for a lot of the reasons that I don't like to suggest pharmaceutical inductions, because I really do believe that if you can encourage the body to produce its own hormones and line up the baby and increase the mother's own oxytocin production, that I don't really find a use for herbs and homeopathy. But I think I would choose herbs over homeopathy if I needed to. Also, there is castor oil. Okay, now castor oil is also something that I really don't jump at the chance to advise castor oil, but for the women who have needed it, it's been very helpful for the most part. Most of the time when a woman comes to me and says, "Oh, I'm going to take castor oil," or I'm thinking of taking castor oil, what do you think? Basically, castor oil is like a toxic, it's an oil from a toxic bean, okay? And what happens is it causes a lot of peristalsis, which is and contractions of the intestinal tract, and it can cause some diarrhea, but it usually causes one of the two. It causes throwing up or diarrhea, or both. And the peristalsis from the intestinal tract can stimulate contractions, and it can also some say that the castor oil itself has sort of a similar to prostaglandins. I'm not exactly clear on whether or not that's true or not, but in general, the body would start by having a lot of diarrhea, and then hopefully follow it up by contractions. But the body really does need to take over in any situation that that we're wanting a natural encouragement of labor. The body at some point the body has to take over. It's not like the herbs are going to make the uterus contract hard enough to open up and have the baby, or the castor oil is going to give the woman strong enough contractions to actually have the baby, or nipple stimulation, I didn't discuss that, but I will, is going to give the woman contractions strong enough to open up the cervix and give birth. None of these things are going to make the woman's body give birth. The woman's body has to do it herself. So let me just wrap up by talking about nipple stimulation. Nipple stimulation is basically, like I talked about in the last video, can secrete a whole lot of oxytocin. It's an incredibly valuable technique for stimulating contractions, and it's the one technique that I find is the woman doesn't want to do it because it's intimate, it's weird, it hurts, it takes a long time. When women can actually physically do and sustain a proper nipple stimulation technique, it actually works really, really well. And sometimes I have women do it with a breast pump. And that way they can do it on, if they have a double electric breast pump, they can do it on both sides, and they can just kind of relax while it's being done to them rather than doing it to themselves. But nipple stimulation is very, very effective in creating uterine contractions. Like I said, once the contractions are happening, the body really needs to take over, to take the reins and do the labor itself. But all these techniques are really helpful in stimulating labor in a woman who's already almost ready. Okay, I have some other techniques up my sleeve, but I tend to want to only give specific techniques to specific women, because I never want my information to be misinterpreted, and I don't want to cause any harm by giving you all this information. So those are all the things that you can do that are really going to set you up for a great labor. And as long as the baby's moving well, and if you have a monitor, the baby's looking good on the monitor. But even if you don't have an opportunity to do a fetal monitor in the last part of your pregnancy, regular kicks, regular movements that don't include hiccups are an incredibly valuable indicator of how well your baby's doing. So if you feel a lot of fetal movement, you can be rest assured that your baby's fine. And the standard of care is to monitor the baby after the due date, in some cases after 41 weeks, and in some cases after 40 weeks. But all along, you can always monitor the baby's movements. And I tell women that as long as the baby's moving, having an active period twice a day, and in between the active period, occasional movements, that's usually an indicator that the baby's doing just fine. All right, so hopefully that helps you all, and I'll see you next time. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment if this has helped you, and share. Thanks, bye.